So let's talk about the usability environment a little bit more. So this is what a usability lab looks like. So typically, like I said, it's done in a controlled environment, which could be your office or a formal usability lab. So as you can see, it has usability lab has two rooms. So this is this room that you're seeing here is called the observation room. Okay, so observation room, which where all the you can have more than one observer sitting. So the observer has very detailed view of the usability. The other room is called the usability lab or the usability room. So the observer has a very good detailed view of the usability room and of what the user is doing. There are cameras in the usability lab, and the observer is able to look at the user's expressions and also what they're doing on the screen of the computer. And by the way, there's a mirror in between the observation room and the user room or the usability lab, and this mirror is one way, meaning is that the user in the usability lab is not able to see who is sitting in the observation room. Okay, so yeah, so this is again the participant room or the usability lab. Let's call it the participant room. So the users are not able to see the observers, and the facilitator is with the user, and the usability or the participant room also has a computer on which the user performs the tasks. So you could have microphones, cameras to record the user and the facilitator. So if you are not good, if you don't have a usability lab, then you can conduct a usability test in your office or in a very soundproof and distraction-free room. Sometimes people use certain equipment to conduct such usability tests. So as you can see, this particular person has there's a document camera that can record the users' interactions on the phone. And this camera, this laptop belongs to the observer. So everything that the participant is doing on the phone is being transferred to the observer's computer, and the observer can watch closely what the user is doing with the help of the document camera here. So this is just more on the same thing. This is the same setup, but as you can see, the equipment kind of looks different. So again, this is the facilitator or the observer's computer. This is the mobile testing sledge on which is carrying. In the previous slide, there was a document camera. In this one, we have a mobile testing sledge, which has a camera installed here that is recording the screen of the phone. And in this picture, we also have a webcam that is recording that is supposed to record the expression of the user. Okay, so all these details are written here. Okay, so because we don't have a usability lab here on campus, you won't have access to the mobile usability lab that I have because of the current situation. So you will be doing a remote usability study. So in this case, you will have to ask the user, you will send the link to your Proto.io prototype and ask the user to share the screen, and then you'll have to observe their interactions on the screen. And so this is you here, right here, and your user is in their own environment, safe environment. So you have to ask the user to be in a quiet room and set up a meeting time with them on Skype and just observe, give them tasks to do, and then observe how they are doing those tasks, make notes, do your collect your metrics. If you want to measure how much time they are spending on a task, you should have a stopwatch with you. Usually, because we don't have access, I cannot give you access to the equipment that we have, so you won't be able to record their interaction. So you have to be very vigilant when you are, if you choose to record the number of errors that the user is making while doing a certain task, then you will have to be extremely vigilant about recording observing the number of errors. Usually these things, users' interactions are recorded, and this allows the observers to watch and rewatch the videos and figure out how many errors were made. But for your case, it will be very difficult for you, so you'll have to do it in real time. If you are able to do a screen recording while your user is interacting with your high fidelity prototype, that's great. If not, then you have to make sure that this is something that you are able to do fairly easily. Okay, so there are some rules for conducting usability evaluations. First of all, you have to really be respectful of users' time. And how you can do this is by making sure that everything that you're asking the user to do is well tested out. So if you're going to ask the user to perform a certain task, make sure you do it yourself first. Okay, so do it yourself first and make sure that there's no problem with the prototype as you're doing it. Okay. Remove all the bugs before you start your usability evaluations. So do everything that you can to make the user feel comfortable. And the best way to do that is by telling the user that they are not being tested. You're testing the prototype. Whatever they're doing is not wrong. They cannot do anything wrong. It's the prototype that's being tested. If it doesn't work, it's the prototype's fault. It's not user's fault. And then give the user as much information about the test as they need or want to know. And this is really going to be, it's really going to depend on what are you asking the user to do. If you don't want to if, for example, your goal is to figure out whether the user can understand what this app is about, obviously you're not going to give them that information beforehand. But if you feel like by giving them that information, it's going to help them understand, get a grip of the prototype early on, then you should give them that information. And the ethical issue that I talked about is about preserving the user's privacy. So you have to ensure the user, when you're giving informed consent to the user, you have to tell the user that you are going to protect all this information. It's not going to get leaked out. Nobody will have access to it. So you have to kind of tell the user so they feel more comfortable about using your prototype. And another thing is that you have to give the user full control over this user study, i.e. they should feel free to quit the study at any time they want.